So just to quickly correct something, it is not minimum wage increase, but a provisional wage award that the government is giving to federal government workers, as it was stated by the president in his Independence Day address to the nation. And so joining us in the studio is public affairs analyst and financial expert, Olusegun Okwade. Good morning.
Good morning, Vero.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Kemi.
And congratulations, there's no strike today.
Well, I don't really know why you're congratulating. People like us are really respected. I heard Kemi almost taking his bet for. We should have collected
that.
If
I had known,
this morning we'll be having a very good breakfast for ourselves.
Vero would have given me some money.
Of course.
But anyway, let's get to the issues now. Right. You said you already mentioned that you knew, okay, this was going to happen at the end of the day. But let's take a critical look at the 15 points agenda, if I may call it, race between both parties, agreement reached and MOU signed. What stood out for you? Because we were trying to point out some things that we say were similar to what the president mentioned in his address, except for the increase in the provisional wage award, talking about from 25,000 to 35,000. But when you look critically, there were comments here and there that this matter did not cover the private sector and some other sectors. But we see that this 15-point agreement reached is having some specificity to some issues that were raised.
Yeah, what caught my attention in all this is the recognition of the fact that the private sector are now being considered with the tax waivers that they promised. Even though all the 15-point agenda, we are adjusting them on paper, the modalities that we to carry this out with students, no.
Some were mentioned.
Yeah, well, maybe for one or two. The one that I can see there is the 35,000 that is meant for the federal government workers, the provisional wage allowance. But for the rest, there are still things that we are putting in the pipeline. Is it the issue of the CNG buses that will commence the process by November? That's what is actually stated there. The process will commence by November. Between now and November, which is a tentative day of commencement, what is the fate of an average worker? You ask yourself, the cost of transportation is a key factor in what we're saying currently. Because transportation border around the food movement, it border around the movement of individuals around, it border around lots of things. But if you are waiting, we are waiting till November for the commencement of the procurement process. You and I understand that maybe we'll be waiting for another 6 months. And it's only the federal government staff or the civil servants that are now just being beneficiary of the little spike. And don't forget, someone like me never celebrated the adjustment in pricing, because we are not hearing anything from the state, and the private sector are not saying anything as we speak on the increment.
Let me just quickly read out what is here. If I am to interpret it, the rollout aims, talking about the CNG now, the rollout aims to commence the rollout. Means the government would have procured it before November. So it's to be rolled out with pilots across 10 campuses. Rollout commenced by November with pilots across 10 campuses nationwide. So for me, I believe that it means they would have procured it before November, hopefully, and then roll out by November.
So if you are starting pilot with 10 campuses by November, we understand, we are businessmen. When you roll out pilot scheme for a particular thing, it's like POC. You are bringing it out for you to say, this is what I want to achieve. At times, your pilot can take 2-3 months to buy time and convince the people. And that's why, for me, there won't be any need for you to be talking about pilot. If you have the wherever on ground, as we speak, it's not just getting the buses. How many technicians do we have that are going to actually service this? This is something that is coming in. How many of the gas stations have you built to actually, dispense gases to some of this area? We are not seeing those infrastructure. As I speak, I stand to be corrected, but at least I've had people here and there, people in that sector, to talk about, where are the infrastructure? If you get this in November, where are they going to be getting their gases? What are the infrastructure? Are you going to do that between now and November? So when you talk about pilot scheme, it's like we'll give to 10 campuses. we are going to test run with the student. What is the, the impact on the workers that we're talking about? And that's why I'm like, this is just a template reading to calm down the nerves of the labor. We understand that. But we need action plan. Action plan that we can take, what some of us in finance say, what we can take to the bank and have the guarantee that things will work. As we speak, this 35,000, the market women do not understand that it's not for every worker, that it's for federal workers. All they know, as of yesterday, I met a woman. He said, congratulations, sir. She spoke to me in the Yoruba. I said, ma, I am not Oshishe. I am not a federal government worker. Those that were given the money are those that work for government in Abuja, ma. Because if you start explaining to her that federal government parastatals in states, she won't understand. We are not hearing anything from the state government. And for me, I feel rather than advocating for this pay increase, some of the things we've seen some state carried out should be things the labor should be speaking to. One, look at Lagos State. When the fuel subsidy came up, what we heard is that BRT, even though we know we outweigh the number of BRT buses, but there was relief for a certain set of people in the sense that people now have to wake up early, join the BRT buses, because now they are collecting 50% of the cost.
Yeah.
They are able to bring on board the rail system, which is still under BRT, for them to ease the process. What are we getting from other states? It is not you giving us money. It's a way of relieving us. We have said it also. BUA came up in the construction company of reducing the cost of cement, from the factory. Can we have this kind of arrangement with consumables? You are talking about tax rebate and tax relief for this organization. As far as I'm concerned, it's a win-win thing. And I consider that as more beneficiary to every masses than this idea of giving money to individual. If you give a kind of tax rebate to manufacturing company and they're able to reduce the cost of food, the cost of consumables out there, everybody goes into the market, goes into the mall, and they get those things at a reduced price. Then you'll be compensating it with the tax rebates.
Right, you will get back to the point. I apologize for the interruption. You will still build up on that, private sector, angle. But regarding this 35,000 naira wage increment, do you foresee maybe any adverse implications regarding price of goods and services?
Or inflation.
Inflation, the president has said he wants to curb that. But with the market woman, with the exchange you had with the market woman yesterday now, people feel that, this could automatically affect, increase the price of goods.
It's not that it has started affecting it. Because the market woman do not understand all this English that we are talking about. What the woman understands is that federal government has added to the wages of workers. They don't know the distinction between the federal or the states or the private sector. All they know is that they have added to the wages. And that's where the confusion is coming from. How many of these federal government treasury paid people that we have compared to the large chunk of workers that we're talking about? So it's on its own. The inflation we are trying to tame will definitely come and bounce back on us. As we speak, inflation is about 25% from what they said. Let's see what becomes of it between now and December. You are talking about paying 25,000 to 15 million less privileged people. We've asked, pardon me, I'm an accountant and I play with figures and we like data. Where is the data that we are riding on to provide
register? There's a social register.
Have you seen anyone?
The government said there is a social register.
We always hear they are raised. The other time when this new administration came in, they discarded what the old administration put up.
And we see the
and
minister,
after then, I have not heard.
Better Edu, is in Lagos, as is being reported, doing a door-to-door confirmation of the data she has with regards to the social register.
How many can she cover? I learned she's in Okwaba, who is taking care of Agege.
Maybe she
and
might have that.
Right,
Have
and
persons working with her.
Right, and you recall that the state government had also said they will be taking ownership. They will be more responsible in collating this
data.
This data. Because
We
these
always
are the
hear that,
domain.
Kemi.
Right.
We always hear that. Have you heard anything about the 2 billion that was given to states as palliative to ease the burden? Don't forget that the state labor actually picked on them. That we need to have an understanding. You see, if we must proceed, we want the government to be transparent in some of the things there. We have confidence in them. But most of the time, when things are eating away from the people, it brings a lot of speculations on the path that this will not work out. We have several people that are hanging on us. As a matter of fact, I'm sure you know you're a big madam because they see you on air. Of course. And every person that sees you, you cannot
He's putting me on the spot.
No. And every person that sees you will not believe that you have the wherewithal to give all that is needed. And they are always on you. Go to your church. They look at you. Go to the mosque. Go to schools. They look at you as someone that must
on
offer,
social media,
the best out of it. But how much are you making as an individual for yourself that you have to be? And these are certain set of people that we feel that we expect that their name will be on the list of the social intervention register that you give to them. But they don't even have idea of it. So that is why we are like, can we have the register displayed while you validate? Then other people too can assist in validating. And we'll come on here to let the people know that for real, this is working. We have wards. You remember during the election, there are wards, there are polling units closer to everybody that you have individual people manning them to make sure that you win the election. They have the coverage of that environment. How much of those people are closer to them? In all this scheme, I've not seen local government their own contribution to it. Don't forget, they are closer to the people than even the states. How much are you integrating them into the process? So as far as I'm concerned, the 15 agenda is quite wonderful. It's good. Most of the time we've said it. When it comes to policy, writing of policy, we are fantastic in it. When it comes to implementation, it's always a challenge. And for me, I've seen some pitfalls in some of these things because currently, the cost of logistics, you see, I happen to be a member of the Transport Administration, and we always say, even when you see traffic on the road, we don't consider it as counterproductive. It's to tell you that businesses are moving. But as we speak, most organizations do not have the 5 days work, except for those of you in the broadcasting. Now you stagger the work. And those 2 days, 3 days that people stay at home, they don't give their maximum. Because there are challenges too. You're at home, there is no power. Excuses will be given to your boss on why you cannot deliver. Because you cannot even afford the cost of petrol to fuel your generating set. But you can imagine if you are at work, the government, the office is obliged to provide power for you to work. So on its own, it's impacting on productivity. And I wish we can restore back our normal 5 days work, but it's not really visible on the part of business owner as we speak. Whether you want to give this tax relief, we want to see it spelled out. They've spoken there of the nano and the small businesses that the government, we want to see data. On what basis are you sharing this? On what basis are you visiting those people to give them some of these intervention funds? We must start having documentation. That's why they will say the accountant is not someone that you need, because we lack keeping records.
Right.
Track. You can now form trend analysis to say this is the pattern at which we will be projecting in the next year, in the years to come. So I want the president, I know it's not something he is going to do alone, but it's an analytical man. I know of so much that he did while he was in the private sector. But we must start bringing this to bear. It's not about, now we've said we've suspended for 30 days. So hopefully by beginning of November again, we start mopping up to say, guys, some of these things, what are the landmarks? Since the resumption or the assumption of office of Mr. President, it is just now we are having a hearing issue of joint visit to the refinery, which is part of the 15 agenda. I expected that to have happened Before now,
Yeah.
government, the Mr. President gave us an insight that the Port Harcourt refinery will come to,
In December.
in December. Where are we on it? Can we be having a monthly report on the development of some of these things? That is, if you work in the private sector, you and I understand, most especially those that work in marketing department, it's a weekly performance report that you give. If you can't give us on weekly basis, can we have monthly progress report? What we call it is progress report. Then that will give a sign of relief. I hope we won't get to December. I will be having excuses of why we have to extend that another 3 months. And that's what I expect Labour to start doing. Having the joint visit, you have the people that are there, that are carrying out the maintenance, are members of Labour.
All right.
How much are you putting them under check to make sure that government is not just giving you story, but they are telling you what is obtainable? How much are you engaging them?
So we need to be putting Labour on its toes as we speak.
Of course. So this joint visit, as far as I'm concerned, I expected that to have come on board before now. Because I heard in August till now is 2 months, when the president said, don't worry, Port Harcourt refinery will come on air. I was expecting Labour to pick on it, large, and move. Don't forget that President Obasanjo reacted to that statement, that the president was only telling us lie. And he gave a counter, statement to that. We expected Labour to have actually leached on this. Because what we need currently is, how can we reduce the level of importation of the finished product and refine the product locally? Vera, I can tell you, before the assumption of this administration, what was in the air was Dangote refinery. Dangote refinery. Since June till now, stand to be corrected. I have not heard anything about the progress made. There was a promise of commencement of the commercial production by August. Here we are in October. We are not hearing anything. Don't forget, I will always speak on Dangote refinery. Why? Our funds, taxpayers' money, are part of it.
Yeah.
So government should monitor. As we speak, I have not heard anything about Dangote refinery because I consider that as a kind of relief that we can start refining that locally. When Port Harcourt will come on board, that will even give employment to our people locally. But as we speak, the last I heard was the award of import license to Dangote. I asked myself, someone to refine, will still be importing the product? This seems scam. So Labour should look at this critically. People like us, we don't believe in give us more money. No, we don't want you to give us money. Don't give us the fish. Teach us how to fish. Create the enabling environment. There's another one that I will always tell you, power sector. Yeah. This play a significant role in the growth of an economy. Majority of the artisans that are supposed to be on board, where are they? They're on the road, riding bike. How can we have consistent power supply? If we are not getting 24 hours, can we get 20 hours? It shouldn't be for the prime areas only. We should consider areas where the low-level people are. Yeah. People, those days, you can knock at the door and say, I need a welder, I need this. All the welder have left their shop and now on the road riding Okada. And we keep complaining that we don't want them on the road. Provide the basic thing. Power is strategic. And once that is being done, you reduce the pressure that you have on foreign exchange and we can be better for it.
So if I hear you correctly, it's seeming like Labour is more reactionary than, looking to the the real issues and not being proactive. Because I recall we had a conversation here yesterday and someone was asking, this matter of CNG buses did not just begin today. It began, I think, 2020, yes, either 2020 or 2021 when the president spoke about it, that what did Labour do? Why did Labour not follow up with government to see what can be done? And here you are again mentioning the matter of the refinery, what has happened, and all of it. So as we speak, are you seeing some glimmer of hope at the end of the day with some of the agreements reached here in the next 30 days?
Well, we are always hopeful. And that's why we are today. The government will do their best. At least we appreciate the fact that the strike is not out there. because that would have impacted on we in the private sector. Behind the scene, we were laughing that certain set of people said, please, when you want to carry out your strike, remove us from the list. I think it's getting to that level where certain sector, most especially the business owner, will not listen. Because majority of the things they are putting on track do not favor the business owners, the private sector. It's more of the civil servant. If there's going to be an increment now, I'm sure you heard the last time when Labour was agitating that NLC will go on strike. My people at the Lagos State, the civil servants, they said they won't join them because the state government is taking care of them. How many of us in the private sector is the state taking care of? You cannot, when you are negotiating with your client, you cannot increase the cost of your service to them. Reason being that the same pain you are feeling, they are facing it. And if you go ahead and do that, and they are unable to pay what is expected of them as at when due, you have not gained anything. So you still try to manage the current, cost, even though that you are not making any margin on it, but you just need to keep the business going. Right. So they should be mindful. We are looking at, I am looking at situation where we have the bold move by BOA being carried out by major manufacturing company that has to do with consumables, reduce the cost of food. And let's look at synergy with the private sector in the logistics company, where you can give a kind of relief so that they have the buses. While you wait for CNG buses, can you look for a way to give maybe tax rebate like they did in the construction company? You construct this road, we'll give you tax rebate to the tune of so much so that you can provide that infrastructure. Can we imply that to the logistic company? Can you provide us with so much buses that will run this route and will give you a kind of relief in what you're going to? Because when you pay the taxes, is it not to provide infrastructure for the people? And that you're already providing the convenience on the part of, there are certain logistic companies that are, corporate entity. At least before we go to the commercial bus drivers, corporate entity that you can engage. And you know definitely what comes, because they have records that they are keeping. It's not like the commercial man that you find difficult to know how much he makes in a day. They are in the informal sector. But we have the formal one that you know what they make in a day. You can agree to what you give to them as tax rebate so that they can ease the process. What we need now is that people like me, we always say it, we want traffic back in Lagos. It is when there is traffic that shows that there are activities going on. People move from one place to the other, move goods and services from one place to the other. This idea of people staying back at home. But man
hours is lost. Man hours is lost in traffic.
Most of the time when the man hour is being lost in traffic, you are even making some money to yourself.
Not all the
How?
time.
Not all the time.
It's not everyone.
Not everyone.
Not everyone. But I'm even curious about the issue of the middleman syndrome, because in Lagos State, when the governor announced that there would be some form of reduction in prices, it only happened for the BRT buses. His announcement that there will be a 15% reduction for commercial buses never took effect. It was never implemented.
We will continue to face that because those guys do not have, records that they keep. So how do you nip it to say reduce by 25%? We are already having a challenge too, because we have said that government should have this price regulatory control. The BOA moves. The middlemen will take advantage of that again. Before it gets down, they will pull it up and say, no, the cements are not even available. It's just a paperwork. Meanwhile, that thing came out. And that's why we say the government agency, that they are increasing their provisional allowance, should stand up to some of these things and make sure that we monitor activity so that an average Nigerian can benefit the good intention.
Positively and breathe. Very important.
We'll leave the conversation here now. Olusegun Kwade, public affairs analyst and financial expert. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me this morning.